Thinking about buying a franchise? Don't go it alone. Just like a buyer's agent in real estate, you deserve someone who's on your side every step of the way. That's where Todd Abraham, the franchise guy, comes in. Todd's consulting services are completely free to anyone looking to buy a franchise. He'll represent your interest, make sure all your questions are answered, and walk you through the entire buying process. With Todd in your corner, you'll have the best chance for success from your first call to the day you hold the keys to your new business. So before you buy a franchise, talk to someone who knows the industry inside and out and works for you. Call Todd Abraham, the franchise guy, today at 423-381-0925 for a free, no-pressure consultation. That's 423-381-0925. Your future in franchising starts here. All right, welcome today. Today is Monday, July the 8th, and we are back for the second round of our Franchise Marketing Systems Client Spotlight podcast with Carl Dupper, who is the founder and president of Tidy Task Franchises. And the reason I say it's round two is because we did the first recording, and for some reason, the technology, the software had bleeped out on us for a couple of minutes at a time in certain places. So I was like, well, we've got to redo it because Carl's got an outstanding franchise offer here. And I just wanted to make sure that nobody in the listening audience missed out on any of the great details. So, Carl, welcome back for round two, brother.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Todd. Excited to do it even better the second time. And excited to chat today.
Yes, sir. So Tidy Task is all about cleaning services, but as we talked about before, you've taken it to the next level and added some services which even I personally have not heard of in a professional, for lack of a better word, maid service, if you will. So tell us a little bit about yourself and about Tidy Task, how it kind of all got started, and we'll just go from there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Tidy Task is a technology-forward residential cleaning company. We're app-based, but you can get to us online. And really, we do majority of our business is residential recurring home cleaning. Maid services, another way people talk about it. But as you mentioned, Todd, we do other things. We do move in, move out cleans. We do commercial cleaning, so apartment complexes are kind of our bread and butter, but we do a lot of businesses, office spaces. I know the one that has always been a favorite of mine is our laundry service. So we do a pickup from your doorstep, wash, dry, and fold laundry service. So if anyone's like me and they have that pile of unfolded laundry sitting on the chair, that's something that we can take care of for folks. It's also an upsell that we have in our cleans where if you have no problem getting it from the washer to the dryer, but it just stays at that fold step for weeks on end, we can actually fold all that laundry for folks, while we're cleaning their home. Our whole goal, Todd, is to save families from 8 hours of chores per week by delegating it to someone that frankly does it better, does it faster, and leaves their home feeling like it's a really, really nice space to live in.
Well, that would be awesome. I mean, if it was in my budget and you guys were local, I would definitely consider hiring you guys to come in because, like you said, one of the great things is a lot of families have, two income families, mom and dad work, kids are, either in school or in daycare. And the last thing you want to have to do is come home and spend, 3 or 4 hours cleaning the house, washing and folding laundry. So I could see where a lot of folks could really utilize your service. Now, I have to say something because I like to interject a little humor into these podcasts. So the first time Carl and I did this, since he knew this wasn't going to be audio video, he's answering my questions and he's kind of bouncing around. And I thought he was bouncing. And I thought to myself, I wonder if he's got one of those big exercise balls he's sitting on and he's just kind of just naturally bouncing as he'd say. And so as we got ready to start this one, he did literally go over and grab this big exercise ball. And I laughed. I said, well, at least I know I'm not losing my mind and that you were actually bouncing the last time we talked. And so that was kind of funny. But the reason he said so is because the office chair that he has there is squeaky, and he didn't want anybody listening to hear the squeaking going on while we were doing the interview. So that's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Hey, yeah, just thinking of the listener, I wouldn't want to listen to a squeaky chair all the time. And isn't it just more fun to sit on a bouncy ball?
I mean, it would seem like to be like the alternative, like the stand up desk. You can either do the stand up desk or you can sit down, but you can sit on the bouncy ball. So your body's got some fluid motion going. But anyway, so Carl, tell us about how you started Tidy Task. Yeah, I know you said it was out of a need because your son was born. So tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I started as a customer of home services and was really just so displeased with the experience as a customer. It's where it said or told me this is an opportunity for something to be improved. So um, at the time, I was the CEO of a hospital. My wife was the pastor of a 1,400 member church. Um, and, you know, we needed every second that we could get back into our day. And it was actually my parents in their infinite wisdom that, was kind of complaining to them over the phone as kids do to their parents. Um, and their advice was, Carl, anything that takes your time that you can delegate to anyone, you need to do it. Because, week to week, Molly and I, my wife's, time together was more so looking like doing the dishes, doing the laundry, and then we're back at work. It was like so few hours together actually got to be enjoyed because we were working so much professionally. Um, we just didn't have time to go out and date and, do the things that you fell in love doing. And I think that happens in marriage. So this was, kind of a selfish ambition for me where I wanted more time with my wife, not over the sink, not over the washer and dryer. And, I started shopping in my area at the time. I lived in Orlando, Florida. And man, it was just a bad experience. I used the Jobber and Yelp and all the different sites like that. And every person reached out in a different way. Some wanted to text, some emailed, some wanted me to be home for an 8-hour window where they would come in and do a quote for me. I'm like, the whole time, oh, I don't have 8 hours. I don't have 8 hours in a whole week, much less a day that I'm just going to sacrifice for someone to come to my house to tell me a price for something. That's just wild. And yeah, the long story short is I did eventually find someone that made it as easy as I could find, where they said, yeah, we'll just come out, we'll clean it, and we'll kind of figure out the pricing after. Still a little sketchy, but it worked. And ultimately, we're incredibly pleased to have our house clean, every other week. But for me, I looked at that and said, this doesn't need to be structured how it is from a customer service standpoint. We can estimate accurately how much something is going to cost to clean. We can, communicate with customers in a really clear and consistent fashion what gets cleaned, what's on our cleaning checklist. Can we customize our clean to your home and base it on your priorities? Those are all things that now with Tidy Task, we've incorporated into the business model. But again, a lot of it started with just the things that I looked and said, this can be improved on so much better. And the whole point that someone is hiring a cleaning service almost all the time is they need more time back, and it's a convenience service. And so we really have three main customer groups, Todd. The first one is busy two income mom and dad households. So that means mom and dad are doing full-time jobs. They have daycare for their kids, and they're using us to get house chores done. The second group is older folks that just can't do it themselves. typically they're a little too stubborn to reach out on their own. So a lot of times it's their kids that are calling us, setting up the service for them, and then we're going to clean for them. And then the third is our working young professionals that just don't want to clean, and they have the disposable income to have someone else do it for them. But the in common factor is they want it to be easy. They want it to be convenient for someone to come in. And we've designed a lead and sales process that really simplifies what we need before we go into someone's home and guarantees that every time we clean, the clean gets better because we're constantly learning about that customer.
That's great. So how would you say that your prices compare with, like, because there's other, big brand name cleaning services out there. I think there's one called Molly Maid and there's Maid Pro. So how does your prices compare to those services, and what sets you apart from them?
Yeah, so for the big name services, we like to sit right below them on the pricing scale. You'll find that a lot of the franchise systems that grew up in the 90s are now kind of reaching the end of their business life cycle. They're charging a lot. Almost all of them charge like time and a half almost for the first clean to come out. They put this big, huge hurdle in front of their customer to actually want to do the first clean, and then they lower the price for future cleans. We kind of looked at that and said, I don't think that, let's lower the hurdle for first time customers and then get them onto recurring services, by widening the opening of the funnel rather than narrowing it. But there's two major service provider groups in home cleaning: the Molly Maids, the Maid Pro, those other kind of older, I would say, technology, slow to adapt on that side, all the ones that grew up in the 90s. We sit right below them on price. And then the other main group is the solo cleaner mom and pop provider, that it's just them and they just go clean houses and they just charge their minimal hourly rate. We are more expensive than that group. But with that group, you get a lot of sketchy activity. Very often they're not insured. Very often they won't show up at the time that you scheduled with them, or they'll constantly reschedule on you last minute. You don't have a background check on them. They may have theft. They may have violent crimes. All those things may be the reason they're cleaning for themselves and not with anyone else. And so we sit in between those provider groups as a lower cost than the big players, but we have all the trust elements that you get when working with a larger company.
Well, that's awesome. So now, how long have you been a franchise? And talk about the franchise side of the business, and like, what's your ideal candidate? What kind of a price point are they looking at, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, we've been a franchise now for about 2 years. Our story there is an old coworker, reached out, said, I see what you're doing. I see the business model. I see the legitimate need. And have you considered franchising? My answer to him was, I've always built from day one this business in a systems and processes format. I wanted things to be trainable and delegatable so that I could grow out of my own business and have a manager or have other people stepping up and doing different elements of the business. And really, that's what you need to have a solid franchise system. So now we've got a structure that someone can copy paste all of these systems and processes into their hometown market and be successful with it. Michael's done it in Daytona. We've got Brad, who just started in Lone Tree, Colorado, and so we've now in Daytona. We've been there for just over a year and a half. Brad kicked off about a month ago now, and they're both off and running, doing really well with the model. And as far as some of the stats or some of the information about franchising with Tidy Task, we have a really low cost franchise fee and upfront initial investment. So it's $25,000 to that's the fee to franchise with us. And then our estimated initial investment is 37 to 67,000, which Todd, as a guy that is involved with franchising and have chatted with a lot of individuals in this space, you probably know that's really on the low end in terms of cost to get something going.
It really is. As a matter of fact, most franchises start, and we're talking about franchise fee along with other minimal investments, at about 100 to 150,000 and go up from there. So I think we talked about this the last time, but when somebody invests with you, becomes a franchisee, they're not required to have like an office space and that kind of thing. They can pretty much do it from their home location. And then as they grow, if they want to, they can add an office space. But again, what would be the need for it, right? I mean, because most of your work's going to be mobile anyway. So.
Yeah. I mean, Todd, what I try to do is build the most approachable business for the first time entrepreneur. I built this business for myself as a first time entrepreneur, stamping out and saying, hey, I need the lowest financial risk profile. I've got a brother that's a CPA. My mom is also a CPA. So that again tells you all you need to know about my personal financial background and my risk profile, because those individuals tend to be on the lower risk side of things. But for me, I had one shot at entrepreneurship, Todd, and I did not want to go back into corporate healthcare. So I, looked at the model and said, how do I build something that just minimizes the likelihood of failure to as close to zero as I believe a business can be? And so that's why with Tidy Task, step one, I reduced all the fixed costs that a lot of other cleaning companies voluntarily or obligate their franchisees to add into their business, like a fleet of vehicles, like spending $2,000 to wrap all those vehicles, like spending, $5,000 a month on rent for an office space in your territory. Right out of the gate, you can be spending, like you said, $100,000 to $200,000 on things that I looked at the model and said, actually, it's a funny story. The moment I knew that we did not need bricks and mortar was when I walked into one of my competitor franchises locations in my service area. I walked up to the front desk and said, hey, I was just wondering if I could, get a quote for my house. We're moving out and just wanted to see how much it would cost. The gal at the front desk was just so shocked that someone walked into their place of business. She said, yeah, if you give me a call, I can give you a quote over the phone. And I said, I'm right here. Can we just have the same conversation that we would have on the phone? But again, that is where I was like, why does a cleaning business need bricks and mortar? We don't stock inventory. All our cleaners supply all their own cleaning supplies and cleaning materials. It actually makes our cleaners' day easier, not having to drive from their house to a central bricks and mortar location and then to their cleans. They just wake up, log into the app, slide that they're on their way to their first job, and we just cut out, a bunch of unnecessary drive time from everyone's life.
Well, you guys use you sound like the Uber for home cleaning services.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what we've structured in terms of the app and in terms of matching up service providers with individuals that need the service, we are very similar in those elements.
That's great.
Now, cleaning services are more complex than driving A to B, right? That's why we have a cleaning checklist, whereas a Uber driver, it's a pretty easy pass fail, right? Like, did you make it to point B or not? For us, there's some objective things about cleaning, but that's why in our technology we have before and after photos of every clean so that we know, hey, the cleaners that are going, they're doing a good job. We can validate it with our own eyes. And there's less variables associated with, like, is this person's opinion a little bit challenging, or are we really having trouble with this cleaner, doing a good, consistent job? But so we stripped out all those fixed costs, Todd, and made a business model that, frankly, if you do 5 cleans in a month, you will break even and you will cover your costs. And really, what I tell my franchisees, the only way that you fail at this business and you don't, recoup your initial investment would be to just quit, because you're not, again, jumping over a $5,000 rent hurdle every month, and you're constantly looking at, am I going to be able to beat my expenses this month or not? When the minimum hurdle to jump over is so low, it just means you can approach your business with much more freedom to say, I'm confident in my abilities here. I'm going to test this marketing thing and this approach, and the consequences of not getting it right the first time with us are just so low. Whereas if you do a restaurant concept or, even a competitor cleaning franchise, like, you get it wrong for 3 or 4 months, like, you might already be out of business, right, with their fixed cost load. And with us, you just have a really long runway, and there is wiggle room to learn. But also, a beautiful thing about joining a franchise system, we've done the majority of the learning already, and we're passing all of that learning straight on to any franchisee with our playbooks, with our franchise operations manual, and with our weekly onboarding calls as we get someone kicked off.
Well, the thing that again, I'm impressed more now and was the first time you and I talked, is you have put so much thought, time, research, and effort into every single detail about how to make this a successful franchise, first for your own self as a business, and then, like you said, you built it from the start as a franchisable model. The website is very simple. It's tidytask.com, spelled just like it sounds. The actual franchise information is linked off of the primary site. That's correct, right?
Yep. tidytask.com/franchise.
And so when somebody comes on board with you now, one of the things I did want to bring up is, you said the minimum investment, including the franchise fee, which is $25,000, is between 37 and like the low 60s. What determines that variable? Why wouldn't everybody be at 37 as opposed to a possible 60?
Yeah, the one. Again, in my conservative nature, I looked at every potential cost someone could have associated, if they just had nothing. So in that number is a brand new laptop. Again, most people I'm chatting with, they already own a computer of some form. And if you have a computer, you can run our business. It's me saying, you probably want your own inventory at home of cleaning supplies in case you ever want to go out and clean for yourself. I still try and do that every month to stay connected to my operation. And I call them empathy cleans, Todd, because when I go out and clean, then the next, month, I'm a lot more friendly to my cleaners, understanding what they're dealing with and going through on a day-to-day basis. But yeah, everything baked in there. I'll say we've had two franchisees start up, and they've been just as close to the low side of that initial investment range as you can possibly get, because the largest majority of that estimated investment on top of the franchise fee is free cash. It's just me saying, hey, if you do a lot of commercial business, sometimes those businesses have 30-day payment terms. So we want you to have available cash so that you can pay your cleaners every week. But if you're waiting for 30 days to be paid by a commercial contract, you have enough cash to float that. Now, our residential cleaning, that revenue cycle is weekly. So you've got cards on file going to every clean. You charge that card the same day the clean is complete, and you're collecting that revenue in the week that you're paying the cleaner. So our core business is a very rev cycle friendly business, but that's why I added a lot of free cash into the consideration that someone might want to have to start this business.
Right. That's good though. So they don't go into it with any blinders on. So now when somebody decides to become a franchisee with Tidy Task and they go through the discovery process, sign the FDD, get everything done, make the pay, whatever, and now they are legally a franchisee with you, what kind of training can they look forward to from you? And then about how long before they're actually able to start to generate revenue?
Yeah. Our minimum time frame to completing signing to generating revenue is about 30 days. And that's actually what we did with Brad and Lone Tree as our most recent franchisee. He was ready to go. The timing of his life worked out such that the faster, he could get going and get working on this, the better. And so, yeah, we signed all the documents, and then we get all of your accounts and everything set up. We get your location page built into the website, get your Google business profile set up and optimized to start being seen by customers in your area. And then there's, multiple virtual or in person, depending on geography and logistics, of one-on-one time where we get into all of your accounts for the first time together, go through those setup pieces so that everything is tweaked and tuned perfectly so that, again, all those learnings that I've been doing the last 3 years, you're not having to make those adjustments in the future. You're just starting off with everything set the ideal way. But then in terms of the ongoing support, Todd, we have installed playbooks as our kind of guiding light in terms of organizational learning and access to know how to do everything within the business. So it is a shared drive that all of our franchisees get access to, where every repeatable process that happens in the business, I've videoed myself doing it, and then I've outlined a one-page succinct step-by-step process for how to complete that piece of the business. And so while we do everything one time, my experience in that is like people walk away from a big classroom training day saying like, ooh, am I going to remember this when the time comes? Or did I take enough notes? And that's why we've installed playbooks. So you don't have to feel like that first initial training is so high stakes. Yeah, take notes and learn as much as you can, but know that playbooks are there as you actually get into the operation of the business, so that you can know what to do on an ongoing basis.
I bet you didn't realize when you started this just how intense it was to build a business like this and how long it would take, did you?
Yeah, I think we're on the quicker side of things, being 3 years old and having already franchised. It's been difficult because I intentionally chose a simple business. And so you're amazed when you dive into anything, even if you look at it on the outside saying, oh yeah, it's really simple to clean a house. as you zoom into all the separate pieces and parts, you say, oh, wow, there really is a good way and a bad way to do this. And we're trying to install the systems of the business to be the good way as consistently as possible. The other thing I'll add, Todd, is like coming from a career in healthcare, going from being the director of operations for 18 urgent care centers to being the CEO of a hospital, like hospitals and urgent care center, those are process heavy places, right? And the consequences are serious. Like if you do not do things the correct way in a surgical suite, someone dies. And
Right.
that is the consequences of bad process coming in my previous career. And so I have taken that same attitude with building my business in terms of the intention and how much focus I spend on making processes that produce consistently positive outcomes. But I will say it's a huge weight off my chest that the consequences no longer involve death, right? No one's dying if their house
Right.
doesn't get cleaned and or if their laundry doesn't get done. But when you approach those simple life things with that heightened focus on process, it does mean that your customers notice and say, wow, this company's just better. And if I've used someone in the past, they're head and shoulders above in terms of how they communicate, how they follow up, how easy it is to reschedule, how clear and easy it is to understand pricing, and how consistently we deliver a quality clean. Like that is a huge variable with many other companies where it's like clean to clean, you may experience a vastly different thing. And, again, with us, we rely on process to deliver, consistently good outcomes for our customers, but also our cleaners. The reason many other cleaning companies produce inconsistent outcomes is because their cleaners are put up against it. They're not given clear, succinct instructions of how to be successful at each house. And when you work with Tidy Task, you are.
That's good. Well, so we are talking with Carl Dupper. He is the founder and CEO of Tidy Task. That's tidytask.com, but just like it sounds, one of the lowest priced franchises in the industry, and definitely based on everything that we've talked about today, one of the most detail oriented as far as all the details are worked out for the franchisee. So as soon as they come on board, they're able to understand the process, complete the process, with the support of your team and yourself. And like you said, to begin to generate that revenue within 30 days, to me, I think is an important part of the puzzle, for lack of a better word. But you're listening to the Franchise Marketing Systems Client Spotlight podcast series on Franchise Radio. And again, we just talked with Carl Dupper. And we're excited, Carl. And you've actually are a step ahead of some of the franchisors I've interviewed in this series, because you've already got some franchisees in your queue that are working and being successful. So that's really good news for sure. But we want to thank you for coming on board. And the good news is our second attempt went very well. So we'll be able to get this published and get it out there for everybody to listen to.
I love it.
So how will folks get a hold of you if they're interested in, talking about becoming a franchisee? What's the best way for them to reach out?
Yeah, best way to learn more is definitely tidytask.com/franchise. There is an owner's guide on there that you can put your information in, get a more detailed owner's guide. Then that sends us your information in order for us to reach out. You can always reach me directly at carl@tidytask.com. That's a straight line to me. And if you're interested, I'd love to, chat with you. And the process pre-signing day for me is all about transparency. I want when someone starts with us day one for them to say, yeah, in the sales process, I was crystal clear on what to expect. And now here we are day one doing our first clean, and everything we covered shakes out, it makes sense, and it matches, what we went over in training. So those are the best two ways to learn more and get a hold of me, and would love to chat.
That's awesome. Well, we appreciate your time, Mr. Carl. And again, it's tidytask.com. And we just look forward to 5 years from now, Lord willing, you'll have a franchise, at least one in every state. That would be great, wouldn't it?
That's the goal. No, I appreciate the time, Todd. And this is just a blessing that we got 2 times together, because it's always fun to chat with you.
I appreciate that. So we're signing off here. Again, you're listening to the Franchise Marketing Systems Client Spotlight podcast on franchiseradio.net. And if you are a business owner and you are looking to franchise your business, both Carl and I can attest that Franchise Marketing Systems is the best company in the country to handle that for you, because of their complete and thorough and detailed processes that they handle from start to finish. Everything that you thought you needed to become a franchise, and even things you didn't think of, FMS does that for you. And their website is fmsfranchise.com, fmsfranchise.com. And if you are one of those business owners looking to become a franchise so you can be interviewed here by me on this great podcast series, you can reach out to me directly, 423-381-0925, and I can help you with that process. And I am in the Eastern Standard Time Zone. Carl, thanks so much, brother. You have a good evening.
You too.
Yeah, that went really